Hello. Turn up. You wait. Try, trying to cut off my heat. Try, got my heat going on. My video cut off earlier, and I wanted to continue the discussion about it about my experience as a black man. Which I am. How did I know some of the things that I know, and what did I learn from the experiences of being around people who were prejudiced, and how did I become to know these things, and how can I decipher? Certain people on social media kind of awaken my eyes. Before I go more into detail, years ago, shout out to this, commentator Jason Black. When he went, one of the things he did, he went up to this man's residence, and he was interviewing, and his name was Jared Taylor, and he interviewed another man named Richard Spencer. And one thing about, it was really the one thing about it was amazing the way he did it, because he got to the mind. He got to the mind of what was really going on, and what is the promise in systemic society, and he got right down to it when he talked to this gentleman. And when I saw parts of that movie, it really have an understanding how people can manipulate and craft it, people in the black community, and what in other communities, and what do these people really, what they really logic, and some people like the Richard Spencers and the Jared Taylors, and what their Christian ideology is, and how it goes over into business and other areas of life. And so that's what kind of opened me up. And when I used to listen to people like Neely Fuller and Francis Cress Welsing, my eyes I started to go back in time, and I thought about my personal experiences. I thought about what I've encountered being the only black man, a black child, and around friends that were, some of them were white. And why did I go around the ones who were white that can accept that I was fully of the knowledge, or accept that I was just being a friend? And what I learned from the experience from that he mentioned about a code that people have, and then the code turns into the hidden part of disdain. Disdain turns into jealousy, and it had me really reflect on some things that maybe I didn't quite understand at the time. Just by selecting the people who need to respect you and honor you and value you. And not saying that some people can look like you can't value you, but when you're looking from a perspective of other people trying to go into this society, and go among them, they come from a different part of, and raised differently. And there's some people probably never thought about seeing things on an individual basis of different ethnic groups of people. So when they come across a person from a different ethnic group of people, they, being around majority of the people that they normally would have a conversation and grew up around, it's a culture shock to some people. And being around, knowing that I know about white people, and know the good and the bad, in the personality of what they have and how they move and how they think, how some of them think. That's how I was able to know. And I'm able to share this with you. Because in order to understand where the insecurity and the prejudice come from, sometimes you have to go among to understand what is the other side of the problem. That's why I was sometimes my friends, that people that I thought was my friends that were white, that's why I was around them. And I want to see the real side, who they really are. I want to see their dysfunction, what it really comes down to. Because I know, yeah, black people have some dysfunction too, like any other race that people have dysfunction. But let me tell you what I observed over there, that the reality is different from the black experience. There's a human experience of family dysfunction, but it's totally different in the ethnic background where you raise. Even if it's a situation of abuse, of substance abuse, drug abuse, things like that, there's a difference. And it's one dysfunction is not better than another dysfunction of it when it comes to ethnic group of background. Dysfunction is just dysfunction. And that's the way I look at it, and probably that's the way God looks at it. But what I learned from the experience was not all people are the same, of course, but I can understand why some black people kind of want to disengage from white people because of from what I've experienced. The things that I experienced, most black people would, oh man, and the things that I heard and the insecurities that they would come at me, like I mentioned in the previous video. Some folks would cuss the heck out. And some people would have took it on the chin like I did, of the insecurities of prejudice, being their black friend instead of a friend. So this is the reason why some black people pull away, because when they probably hear some that come across it and hear the story, they're gonna be like, wow. One of the other things that I've learned about some white people, is that they gave certain terminologies when they describe something. If they're fixing a car, they give it a terminology. If it's some describing a tree, they gave it a terminology. It was a racial terminology that some of them keep among themselves. And when you're the only black person around them for a certain amount of time, certain ones they go around somebody carry that spirit of eventually gonna let it go. And you have to be in a rural or an urban suburban area to see what I'm talking about, because that's where it really stems from. When I was away at school, that's where it stems from. They come from urban rural areas, so their surroundings is what most of the people that look like them and what's set in their households that look like them. And some of them will really tell you what they were brought up, what they were taught, what they was raised to think. I've come across when I mentioned about being down in Corbin, Kentucky, and my ex-girlfriend at the time, parents, I just told them, how my relatives were telling me, and he was like, "Oh, James, and there's more prejudice up here." And the Klan, it's not like that. Oh, da 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 da. Then I get on the same years later, get on this chat line, talk with some people who were white, confirmed to me that that part of town, they knew who the person was that was in the KKK, and that they had to get out of that town in Corbin, Kentucky. They moved to another part of Kentucky. And see, it's just like, it goes back to my neighbor, who was my friend Bob, trying to deny that his friend was prejudiced clearly when his brother-in-law said that he said something about the man's religion and his skin color. And then I happened to come over there, even though I'm not a Muslim, but it's just it doesn't matter. It's just the point that he mentioned that. And he said, no, Fred. He said, no, Fred's. I don't think Fred's like that. You know, Fred's a Christian. Like that really matters, because it don't matter what person is, if they're Christian or not. They still can have some self prejudice. And so I didn't really, I didn't feel bad, because Bob is he's a good guy, but he's not a person in touch with reality. I mean, all he talks about is, and I think that's his way of not being around reality of people. When it's involved with, roller coasters and, magical castles, so to speak. It's just so he's one kind of people that detach themselves from it. So I just don't, and very seldom I kind of don't go around them as much. I mean, I go over there once in a while, but I don't go around like I used to, because it kind of like, wow, you kind of cover for this neighbor. Always when your brother-in-law told you that this guy is a bigot, and just because his faith or because you think he's a good person, he says something, and this is what have happened. Being at the dinner table of some white people, when some feel comfortable to tell you, open up to you after a certain amount of time. And I was like, wow, So this has been my experience throughout my life. So when I hear black people on social media commenting on things, yet certain points they be pointing out is true. Because I've experienced, I've heard one time, like I said, one person I don't associate with no more, a family member, one of his family members' sisters, made a kind of reference, because his daughter who was probably like 10 or 11 years old, had a crush on a little black boy. And I remember I was in the room, and to this day this shocked me, because it was just a little crush. You can have a crush on somebody, and whatever race of people. Don't mean that one day you're gonna fall in love with a black man. You can have a crush on somebody of opposite race, but it's the way his sister said it. Ooh, and she said, Ashley, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. A black boy, and I'm present. I'm in the back room listening. I'm like, wow. And I know it's just an innocent kid love, but this is some of the things that the white people don't tell you. Some white people don't tell you this. And so when you decide you have a crush on a little black boy, and you're a white female, oh my goodness. So they don't like that. So, and that's why I said I understand how things are coded and put in certain terms. And what it is that when that does happen, they put on a face when you, the black person, that come over there. But you're gonna, sooner or later, when they get angry, get in a high emotional state, their true feelings come out and what they think of your relationship. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you said something like that. Yeah. And what is reserved in their heart and their brain, because I've done, there's some things I've hidden things in myself, biases and opinions. So what makes them think that the next person ain't gonna hide their biases and opinions? And because at one point, you see it on the job, you see the microaggression of racism on the job. Just like yesterday, I was sitting there filming a video, and I was at the park. I didn't have it fake, because I knew there was like a playground. I made sure that the camera wasn't facing the playground, it was facing me. And it was not facing nobody invading us. And this is a public park. This white guy came down and said, hey guy, what you filming? I'm like, I'm not filming, I'm just charging up. And No, I'm just, and he admitted and he admit this, he was being nosy. And I mean, it was his little home camera. I wasn't really. It's not like it was like a big studio camera. You're like, what's going on? He stopped in the middle and he was like this. And so when Phil Scott, he made a good point about this. They come, want to know what you doing, what's around you. It's like, I mean, I see other people doing stuff, taking pictures. I don't go walking over in video. I don't go walking over there asking what they're doing. I mean, I've seen people take pictures of birds and rivers and doing surveys. And, hey, guy, what you doing over there? you know, But I don't know. He just kind of laughed. I said, no, I'm just making a commentary video outside. But yeah, when it comes to white people, yeah, they got to come and investigate. And some of them do that. Some kept walking past. It's obvious. But there was always that one that got come along. But yeah, and so yeah, some of us is reluctant, and the reason why some black people feel the way that they do, because this is the experience that what I'm telling you is that some black people never experienced stuff like what I'm telling you now, like being in the presence of someone come out with the N-word, because you're the only person in my personality. Look here, I'm not going to be hypersensitive, go jumping on somebody and beating up somebody because they said something a racially offense. What I did was take it in and say, oh, this is what you really think. This is what you really feel, because what's going to be the response? No, it's not going to be a violent response. It's like it's time for me to pull back away from you. So this is what we're doing, because you've been told that, and it's the same thing that they're angry. When they get angry, they're just gonna go off and and it's gonna get into a violent confrontation. No. The wise thing is to have the kingdom in you pull back and say, I disassociate from you. You're not in my. Like I'm not in you. You're like the trees to me. You're invisible to me now. And that's the way it is. It's no argument. It's no fight. It's no rationale. I just don't know how to treat you because of your insecurity and your prejudice. And just to the people who have that mindset, this don't all apply to all white people or any other people. But do you have a segment of people who think like this? They think because a black people are not a certain class. And then when they look at the 1% on TV, your ball players, your music entertainers, your actors, then they feel comfortable with them. But to the rest of us out here, it wouldn't be a thing. Unless you big, and then they have to make capital. They want to make capital in business with you. And so you're one of the good ones. So really, you're one of the good ones, so we can make money off. We don't really want to be too around many of you guys, but we'll make money off of you. And this is where some people in other nationalities pick this up, and they don't think that black people have picked this up on this. Some of us are coming to aware of why you are around us, because you were painted that these people of a lower subhuman certain subclass, and it's obvious. But that they're good athletically, they're good musically, they're very entertaining, but they just you have your boundaries. And what we're saying, black people are saying, we have our boundaries, and we put you at the boundary. You see, because some have thought that to the point that just because of someone's skin tone and hair, and they've done this and some of these people that come from other places in the world have done people that look like the people that have the same skin tone, same complexion, but different language, the same way I have. And they come to America. Some of them, you could tell how some respond in America. And this is the truth. So that's why black people are pulling away. See, that's why we're awakening, because we're catching up. Some of us are catching up. Some of us don't understand. Some of us in different places, but some of us understand what you're doing. You know, you've been engaged to look at people differently because by appearance. Some people, just because we all got, and I understand that people, I'm into the people saying, well, we all God's people. I know you get it, I get it, God get it, but the people around you don't get it. They've been conditioned based on the action, the media, the coverage, the hearsay about a group of people, that these people, according to their hair, their skin, their makeup, their feature, that they're subhuman. But they're athletically good, they're musically good, but they're subhuman. That's why they're good for entertainment. Just like you go to a zoo to see some animals. And that's what, in their mind, that's what they think. Because it's like when you be around them, it's like they're afraid, they're scared to be around the same people that they found musically entertaining. They get nervous when they come around them. And it's obviously that they show it. Some have even confessed it online. Some have made it a video. Go on TikTok. That's what they're telling you who they really, how their parents, how their family, how they, oh my goodness, you know, or someone, they decide to engage with somebody and have a relationship with somebody that look like the people who they consider as subhuman, not a certain class and not a certain style. And as black people, we'll keep continuing these people as the way on. We'll have the resources around them, and they have to come to us. And this is what is being thought of. But see, black people are catching on and saying, no, since you think that we're subhuman, and we can tell by your actions, we'll have our own way over here. What? And then the trickery, the mind flip is like, wait a minute. No. No, I don't think all of you guys are thieves. No. Because they know that you spend $1.3 million. And these other people have caught on and said, well, what is these people, what do they like the most? So I can get a come up on. Well, black people are starting to catch up with that. And to all the people who think like this, we're catching up. And it takes someone to open this up. So it's like, okay, why don't you just stay out there where the people you feel comfortable around, where you have your house, where you live at, because you're not around these people who you have thought as subjugated as human, because you think they have a lot of criminality and everything. And this is up to the people who think like this. Because, so you understand when it comes to this is house, and you don't think black people, who the people you would have kind of looked disdain, don't think highly of, soon as you come in their presence, there's something wrong. As soon as their parents, they nose the complexion of the skin, their actions. Don't think we don't pick up on that? You don't think we're going to catch on sooner or later? Some of us already know how you really feel. So that's why they choose to separate themselves and be in their own world. Some of them don't want to go around other people. Why go over to someone's house when you're not going to feel welcome? They're not going to give you the utmost respect. Now you get individuals who are ignorant by individual, but you can't paint the whole people as the same thing. Ignorance is ignorance. Nobody wants to be around an ignorant person, regardless of race, color, creed. But you got to understand, this is a different time. People catching up, and then it's been embedded among some of us that start looking at each other like that, in which they about to find out. No. And like I said, yeah, I've had my ups and downs experience with some of my own people, but not to a degree of like I'm just going to say, be one of these sellouts and say, oh man, these, because I know the cause and effect. why some people do what they do. It's, this individual's upbringing, his environment, or whatever. But I know not to penalize everybody in the same neighborhood. I know not to penalize someone that look like my skin color. I know not to penalize just because some black woman gave me some attitude. I know not to do something like that. I know not to pretend like you're not in my presence because the kind of clothes, the kind of car, or what you look like, or you don't have a certain status and name. I know not to do that because it's been shown to me that. That's just common sense. I know, but some people feel like, and when some of us get to that status, we think that we're above that. We're not going to be like the rest of the black people, and that's not always the case. Look at Bill Cosby. Look at R. Kelly. Look at P. Diddy. They hit to the top. Even no matter if they had the same money as Epstein to Harvey Weinstein, who was in the status classes. It don't matter if you up to a status of Barack Obama. America will constantly remind you that no matter how high you rise, this is always going to be a problem. Now your jealousy goes to a different level. Now they're going to really hate you. And they think you outclassed them. Because everything's, then that situation goes to a class level. We know this. You have to be careful what towns you can't say, well, you were famous or well social media or well on TV. You go to the wrong part of town. In America, they don't and be around some people who don't know nothing about you. You're just another black person. You better get out of town. Your status, your class don't matter. Unless it gets hit to social media. In America, that's how the way it goes. Well, I know something. They don't care. If you don't have righteous people, and because sometimes you're going to need a white person, and no matter what, because it's so they can see you got some intel. It's always been like that with the racist people, and then they tone is different. Everything comes down to that. But the movie with Jason Black interviewing Richard Spencer opened up my eyes when he interviewed those two gentlemen, and he said even Richard Spencer said selling out their own black people. Richard Spencer said like a white man at the time. He said we don't respect them. It's funny, years later you hear someone like Nick Fuentes says the same thing. And how many people who are like Nick Fuentes, Richard Spencer, Jared Taylor is out there among the white people, observing the other this particular group of black people they've been going to come back for over 400 years, and then go at these other people by use of the government, blaming people because they're religion, because they're Jewish, blame people because there's a certain segment of LGBTQ. Blame it. This is what they do in other groups of people. And this is the insecurity that they're scared of. And it started with this, and when it came to black people, it started from centuries ago. Because like after they did with the Jim Crow and said that they're not going to flourish, we're going to burn it. And so when black people was taught the farming and agricultural and other things, and said, okay, you separated them from, they paying their law, they doing their taxes, they weren't criminals back then. They weren't all doing criminal activity back then. So what makes you have to go an excuse to go and attack and burn down the town? What did they do? You told them that you didn't want them being lazy. You told them that they were shiftless. That's when, and you even made the terminology the N-word, because if that's someone shiftless, lazy, and ignorant in your standard, to some of the people that use that word, that have taught generations of the young people to use that word. To this day, they still use that N word as young as a kindergarten. Who taught this? This is what you do to somebody. Who taught? And this is the truth. You said that. So when people decide to sue them, why are you segregating yourself? And it'd be the same people that said that. Well, let me tell you why. Because that individual next to you saying that I was inadequate, I was lazy, and I come from a culture that is criminality, subhuman, and barbaric. So why not? You said it through your actions. You said it in mockery. You said it in everywhere. You said, yet to some point that you think you brought Jesus to us. Do you understand why black people feel the way they do? And then you still think from generation after generation that they're not going to catch up because they're black. You know how those people are. This is not what you say. You don't even have to say it no more. You're displaying it in your actions. We're watching you. Everything that you do. And how do we know this? Because you don't be around from generation after generation. To understand the people. You're going to understand the people. If you go to another part of the world and live among those people for generation after generation, your generation of children will understand. You will understand that. You go to any place in the world and live among the people with different language, different skin tones, different culture, you're going to know those people after a while, being there for a certain amount of time. You're going to pick up what they do. You're going to see what their personality is. You'll get among them. You'll understand the language, their culture, the style. Imagine, and then your ancestors telling you, your relatives telling you, this is what they did to us. And then you see the pictures of it. It's like, what did these black people do? That make you so angry? What did they do? That you had to go and burn down the town or flood it out? What did they do? And here, someone lied, told a story that wasn't true and cost hundreds and thousands of people lives. Imagine you was a people that went through that. Someone that looked like someone like myself, walking down the road, decide that, hey, some three drunk white guys decide let's go play a trick with him. Come on out there, we're gonna have a picnic with you. Imagine that. Imagine being subjugated to that. Imagine, and then you hear about his, and it's going to eventually, black people that didn't know, it's going to get to the black people, and then you're showing this what really happened. And now the younger generation of black people, and black people, the ones that didn't know, they come to revelation and know, like, what the heck? Why? No reason. Majority of times, no reason. Insecurity and jealousy. They didn't want to fight. It's like they were supposed to rise up. The slaves were supposed to rise up like the Irish and the Germans, and the other people were supposed to step out. But insecurity and jealousy stopped it. And stopped one of the groups of people were Native Americans, and the next one was the descendants of Africans. You did this, and you never. I said, then to this day, you're trying to run and deny that this ever happened. It's just a past. But and then and I like what this one man said. He said, "You want to talk about slavery, but yet you got the Confederate flags. You got people reenacting from the war. You got things doing things, and part of it was politics. But part of the politics was one of the things was in the politics was not just the control of the property and the cotton and the gin and stuff like that, and tobacco. You want to control because you want to keep them people like you do the immigrants and keep those people in bondage. And then when the people was in you in bondage, you condition them. Some were conditioned until to the generation to this day to be up under you in different parts of this country. Just so it caused a conflict between in among the black people to this day. You determined because you separated us by class. You said by status. You separated us by secret society. You picked up the 1% to maintain. And you see why black people don't trust you? Some of us took the poison. Some of you did this. This is some of the story. So that's why it sounds like some black people like, why it's like they're being kind of bitter. Wouldn't you be, yes, any race of people, wouldn't you be kind of bitter too? When you find out all this is true, that they didn't put the media, told stories of generations around of people that come into this part of the United States. These people are subjugated, subhuman, their criminality. Not very educated. And that it's not going to get back to the people you're talking about this to. And so now, when you're a black woman, a black man, and you don't fit that typical category, it didn't matter. Because your skin color. It comes down to skin color. They're going to remind you, and it's okay. Now they got to feel comfortable in telling jokes about the ones who are less fortunate among your community. Who don't have the education. Who didn't have who years ago, 20, 30 years ago, took the things that would made them be successful, like wood shop, homemade, took the skills trades, dumb them down in certain topics. I guess they would be uneducated, just trying to stop the use of the system. And both systems were part of it, the conservative and the liberal system. Because no one isn't pulling for that. Now you go to this is a generational thing. So now you have a generation of people. And that's the systemic racism. But you put all the things out there in the suburbs. You put the wood shop and all the other trades out there in the suburbs and the rural areas. You teach them how to show young people how to productive life. And particularly the people is the palm-colored people teaching their kids how to do all this. And dumb it down and just throw basketball to the youth in the city. Just keep them in a stereotype of sports. Don't give them ingenuity to rise up. You see why black people think, and you don't think that we was going to figure out that we was going to stand up before God, and His Holy Spirit going to open all this up to us, because it's inadequate. I gotta go, guys. I'll come back.